Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's GeneralTarheel, your coach at Charlotte Charizards, bringing you the APA Season 3 Week 7 team build versus Coach Dan, aka aDrive, and the St. Louis Rampardos. Coming into Week 7, we did get another unfortunate loss last week against Coach Panther2 and the Carolina Clefables, but he just outplayed us very well and did an amazing job. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. But as we're coming into Week 7, we are taking on the undefeated team, the St. Louis Rampardos. aDrive has been doing very well with the team that he has so far, and it's going to be a very interesting battle. I feel like we have an opportunity to win, so we have to make sure to capitalize on that and see if we can end his streak. Now, as you can see on the board, his matchup is, the matchup is there. Pretty interesting. His roster consists of Mega Houndoom, Lycanroc, Celebi, Mimikyu, Nidoking, Cresselia, Como-O, Lantern, Celesteela, Araquanid, and Torkoal. As for Pokemon he kind of prefers to bring, it does seem like it's Celesteela, Mimikyu, a little bit of Mega Houndoom, and Cresselia. His two Zmons being Mimikyu and Celesteela. Excuse me. Pokemon that absolutely destroy my team. Mega Houndoom, or I'll just start from the top, I guess. Mega Houndoom, monster. In Sun, it two-shots but F Toxapex. So if that comes, that's going to be a little ridiculous, just about picking up a kill versus the team I'm bringing almost every turn. Lycanroc Dusk has an amazing matchup versus me. It's actually ridiculous. My team is already kind of Edge Quake weak and Stone Edge and Earthquake and whatnot, so Stone Edge plus Drill Run is all it really needs to destroy my team. And then it also gives him a Cell Rock, which is a good counter to my Dragon Dance Charizard X. So I really see no reason for him not to bring Lycanroc Dusk. It has an amazing matchup to where he can destroy Toxapex, destroy Togekiss. Gourgeist can wall it a little bit, but if he does even opt to bring Fire Fang instead of SD, like just 4 attacks, then he'd still do a lot of work, even though I feel like SD makes a lot of sense for him this game. Celebi, not too sure if Celebi is really going to come. If he brings it, it might just be a rocker, it might be offensive, since that's, he has kind of preferred offensive, I think, so far with his team for Celebi, so I guess I have to watch out for that, but I really don't see it coming, but I guess it could. Don't really see what much he'd be doing besides maybe a little bit of offense versus Toxapex and stuff like that, but really Togekiss kind of walls it and stuff, so I'm not too worried. And I have a lot of good revenge killers and Mega Charizard, not Cobalion, Greninja and stuff like that, and even like U-Turn Lando. So Nidoking, absolute monster versus my team. I am expecting it to come. In my opinion, he might be the lead Nido to where he'll be Choice Card for Shuka to stop Lando or Cobalion from like Stealth Rocks and stuff like that. Other than that, he could easily bring just a Life Orb set and absolutely destroy my team. Destroys Togekiss and Toxapex. Eel is my only decent counter to it. And then moving on to Cresselia, 1,000,000% has to come. It's going to be like max defense for sure. It just has to be able to wall my Cobalion, my Lando T, my Charizard X, and it just easily does that. I'm easily expecting a Moonlight Psychic Ice Beam set. 4th move can either be Moonblast in order to hit Greninja, Thunder Wave in order to get speed control of my team like Cobalion, Greninja, Mega Charizard X if I just D-Dance up first it constantly, or Calm Mind. Just because he brings Calm Mind every single week, he brings Cresselia, which I understand it's a decent setup Pokemon when it comes to Calm Mind, but like bringing it every time isn't always the best, even though I have been doing that with a few of my Pokemon myself for certain slots, or certain sets, so it's understandable. But I feel like T-Wave would benefit him a little bit more this game, but I still have to prep for the Calm Mind because I feel like it's kind of a threat. Como-O, he does like the Dragon Dance version of Como-O, put some work for him, but doesn't necessarily have a great matchup versus my team. Togekiss is a nice wall. I have Intimidate, Lando can be a possible Scarf check. I have Toxapex, which can haze on those. Even defensive core guys can get off a Will-O-Wisp and stuff like that. I don't think it is the best matchup, but it's still a possibility for coming for sure. Lantern, just very strong counter to Greninja, as well as a decent counter to Alakazam when it comes to special attack, because he can run a Soul Vest, he can run Volt Absorb or Water Absorb. I would kind of expect Water Absorb this week in order to take Scalds from Toxapex as well as Hydro Pumps from Greninja. Celesteela, such a fat Pokemon and really annoying, but he has kind of preferred more of an offensive. It is possible he also brings a Soul Vest set, which he's been running, which I'm kind of interesting, but Leech Seed plus Protect would be kind of annoying with the team that I did set to bring, so we do have to watch out for that. And if he's set up, I feel like I can deal with it pretty easily, but we still have to be careful. because Beast Boost is an amazing ability, and he could just be capable of sweeping us if we're not careful. Celesteela is one of the best Pokemon Draft League format for sure. Next up is Araquanid. I'm definitely expecting Araquanid. I feel like he wants speed control versus my team with sticky webs. Even though I do have decent removal, it's still kind of in his best interest to get up webs versus me, I feel like. And Araquanid is an amazing check to Greninja as well as Alakazam. Sure, Lantern can kind of take it on decently well as kind of better. I mean, trying to speak, I just can't speak today. Araquanid actually like picks up a kill versus those two with like Leech Life. It just gets all its health back versus anything I kind of want to switch into versus Araquanid. And even then, like it's just a free liquidation versus my team, especially if I don't bring Toxapex. And if I do bring Toxapex, he can just bring an Infestation set and stuff like that and just trap me and it'd just be annoying. So I feel like Araquanid is a good bring for him this week for that reason. As well as it gives him another check 2+1 direct Mega Charizard X. You could even, because I can't really afford to run like Rock coverage versus him this week or Thunder Punch. So Araquanid is a pretty decent matchup there. And Torkoal, I'm not really too much expecting, but if he does want to bring Houndoom just to like destroy my team, that would be what he wanted to bring. But Torkoal is also his only hazard removal, which is really interesting. He only has spin. I'm surprised not many teams have capitalized on this yet. Sure, he has Celesteela and Cresselia that ignore like spikes and T-spikes and stuff like that. But hazards versus a team are still always important to look out for. And Torkoal isn't necessarily the best spinner. It's fine versus me because my ghost type is Gourgeist, but still it's not necessarily the best spinner in the game. But really, if it comes, it's just to give Mega Houndoom Sun. I'm perfectly fine with that because that means he just wasted another slot, really. Now, as we get into my team, I really have to just counter his offensive threats, I feel like. The main ones being Lycanroc Dust, Mega Houndoom, Nidoking, Como +1 can still be a threat, Celesteela I still need to watch out for, stuff like that. So, in my opinion, one of the important sets I need to bring was Lando T. I have the Choice Scarf here with U-Turn, Earthquake, Knockoff, Defog. I originally had Toxic over Defog, but I did make a change to the team to where I had Kamala over Electros, which you do see at the end. But I wanted to switch out for Electros because Electros was kind of an obvious bring. It's a better switch into Nidoking and it absolutely walls Celesteela. So, but basically behind this team is I want to get up hazards and I want to just have constant U-turn momentum because he really like won't bring Torkoal, in my opinion. So those hazards would be up to stay and I can get a lot of U-turn momentum off versus him, just chipping down his team to where hopefully something in the back can just clean up late game, which would be very ideal. The other set I was kind of deciding to bring for Lando T was going to be a Gravity set, but the fact is Cresselia just absolutely eats anything from Lando T, even if I am like an SD variant, and it does have Ice Beam. So in the end, it was just not really worth it. I felt like having Scarf to counter his offensive threats were going to be more beneficial to my overall team than bringing a Gravity set and trying to work around that. But Lando does perfectly fine because Choice Scarf, once again, is an amazing counter to Mega Houndoom as well as Lycanroc Dusk. It also is a counter to all of his potential Scarfers outside of Celebi, because Lycanroc Dusk would be a terrible Scarfer because it already gets access to a Cell Rock, which he would bring. Celebi has run Scarf before, so I would need to watch out for that. Scarf Mimikyu isn't a set either, which would be really strange, but still, so that's nice. So basically, we counter Scarf Nidoking. We counter a +2 Celesteela, we counter a +1 Como, just things like that. It's just so helpful. I really also had to bring Defog this week in case he does bring webs, because that would be really annoying for this team, and I had to make sure I could get rid of that. So Lando T, just here to be, overall counter to offensive threats, like I've already mentioned multiple times. Take a shot for every time I've said that so far. But, it can still put in the work, get a knock off a few of the items on Celesteela and stuff like that. But if he does have to bring, bulky Celesteela, and for some reason that's his direct check to Lando instead of Cresselia, then that's going to be a little bit more annoying for my team, because then the Gravity would have been a better situation for me. But it's going to be okay. Hopefully we can work around that. Next up is Crazy Frog Greninja. Has a very solid matchup versus him, apart from the Lantern, as well as technically the Araquanid. I have Life Orb with Torn, of course, Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and U-Turn. Originally, I did have Spikes over U-Turn, but I just opted to get constant U-Turn momentum just on the Stealth Rocks, considering his defensive switch-ins will just be Celesteela and Cresselia majority of the time, so Spikes wouldn't be too beneficial to my team. It would be more so just having Stealth Rocks up and getting as much U-Turn as possible. Also, if he opted to bring the Mimikyu, and that was a switch into my Greninja, I could go and get the U-Turn off versus the Mimikyu and go ahead and break its disguise, so it's much easier to deal with. Hydro Pump absolutely destroys his team. Defending on his investment, we can't two-shot Celesteela after Stealth Rocks, but that is only if he is not the leftover set. If he's the leftovers leech seed set, then we're just going to have to switch out at that point. We're going to be in a losing battle. Ice Beam helps me versus the Como to make sure he doesn't get free setup versus that and whatnot. Dark Pulse absolutely just destroys his team, does a good amount of work. U-Turn also gives me momentum versus possible Lantern. So if that is his switch in, I don't give him free Volt Switch because even though of course Lando is an immunity, it's an ideal switch in because Lantern does have Volt Switch and Scald and even access to Ice Beam if you do want to run that. So Greninja can hopefully put in a little more work and add to the Momentum squad, which 4 out of the 6 Pokemon that I am bringing do have Momentum. One of which is KyleAye, which is next up, which will be our Stealth Rocker for this game, as we have the Shuca Berry. This is not only a counter to set up Celesteela to get me a little bit more damage off, it is also a counter to Lycanroc Dusk. We will take of course, +2 Dual Run from Lycanroc Dusk with the Shuca Berry, or just a Dual Run in general if he's not SD'd up and he's just trying to sweep my team late game. Close Combat, Stealth Rock, Volt Switch, Iron Head. Close Combat or Iron Head will for sure pick up the kill on Lycanroc Dusk. Volt Switch just gives me momentum versus the Celesteela or Cresselia on switching. Once again, I'm really trying to capitalize that. And also Stealth Rock gives me a just free Stealth Rocks versus thing like Nidoking and Celesteela if I really needed to. More so, I would just like to get Stealth Rocks up and keep my Shuca Berry. So I do have to kind of keep that in my mind as I try to get Stealth Rocks up on like maybe something like Lantern or a Araquanid because I can't eat a why did I just switch to that? Oh, I don't know why I just did that. You guys didn't see anything. That was REP42, so you should have seen it. But I don't know what I was trying to switch to my OBS. So KyleAye still does a decent amount of work or whatnot, hopefully getting up the Stealth Rock so we can capitalize on the momentum, which I'm trying to focus on this week like you already know. And hopefully we can catch that Lycanroc off guard and stuff like that. Next up is my Mega Charizard X. I really hope I do a little bit more with Mega Charizard X than I am right now. It's not doing that well. I think it only has 2 or 3 kills. So hopefully we can pick it up with that. The mascot being that low is kind of unfortunate. We have Dragon Dance, Flare Blitz, Dragon Claw, Earthquake. I do want to bring something for that Araquanid, but at the same time I want an Earthquake just in case he brought a Lantern because I feel like there's going to be more of a threat versus my team. I felt like I could deal with Araquanid a little bit more, so I wanted to make sure I had EQ for the Lantern as well as getting a for sure kill on the Mega Houndoom, as well as getting more damage off from the Torkoal, stuff like that. So Earthquake just hit more versus his team and would benefit me a little bit more in the long run. It does a lot of work, but at the same time a max defensive Crest at +1. We're still only doing max 70% to it, I believe, or maybe that's +2. Yeah, somewhere like that. Either way, Chris is eating and it's gonna just put in damage versus us. So even though we're probably free to Dragon Dance up versus it, I could have probably afforded to run Roost. That probably would have helped me a little bit more in the long run. But I don't know. I just want to run 3 attacks this week. Roost probably would have been better now that I'm looking at it, because there is a chance I would have been able to keep myself at a nice 70%. So Lycanroc Dusk could never KO us with a Cell Rock if he is Life Orb. But I opted to go with what I have, so I'm just fine with that. Could definitely put in work if I get a lot of U-turn and Volt Switch chip offers a team at the hazards to where I might just be able to sweep with this bad boy in the end. That is what I'm hoping for. That is what I am aiming to accomplish this game, so hopefully it can happen. And the next Pokemon is kind of interesting. That is with my Togekiss. I am running a Nasty Pass set, Nasty Plot Baton Pass in the APA, but you can Baton Pass as long as it's you don't Baton Pass speed with any stat. So I do have Nasty Plot Baton Pass Air Slash Flamethrower with the Berry. Basically, I thought it'd be really cool if I could get a Baton Pass into Greninja because it destroys his team like I already mentioned. Lantern would be 2-hit KO'd if it was a certain Assault Vest variant, so it wouldn't even be a problem after that, especially after Stealth Rocks be for sure 2-hit KO with the +2 Dark Pulse. So I would just absolutely wreak havoc with Greninja if I was capable of doing that. I do have the Berry. I originally had Chardy to be a better counter to Lycanroc Dusk, but the fact is Air Slash plus Flamethrower isn't really doing much to Lycanroc Dusk, so I'd rather just have a Berry to where I'm capable of getting up a Nasty Plot versus the Celesteela possibly. So Togekiss can put in a little amount of work late game. It also gives me another counter to Calm my Cresselia, because in most cases I am beating it in a 1v1 scenario because of Serene Grace and Air Slash just being so annoying. and it's much easier to deal with. Also, he might just be scared I have Encore on my Togekiss and switch out his Cresselia anyways. So we can benefit from that. We do have enough speed to make sure we outspeed like a defensive Caress, as well as possible speed creeping in Celesteela and stuff like that. So Togekiss can hopefully do a little bit of help versus aDrive this week. It does a lot versus his team actually, apart from the Lycanroc, so I just have to watch out for that. Which is definitely a good revenge killer, as well as Mega Houndoom, just in general, as well as Nidoking. Next up is the Electros, with the Assault Vest being a counter to the Nidoking as well as the Celesteela. Just trying to get more U-turn momentum, like I already mentioned. Bring in a physical set, just a little bit more in my opinion. Wild Charge, Drain Punch, U-turn, and Knock Off. Not too bad versus his team, gives me a nice counter to Celesteela and whatnot. If he does have to bring the Assault Vest, Celesteela, Wild Charge would just be doing me a little bit more damage. Knock Off is really helpful versus his team to get rid of a few annoying items. And Drain Punch really just allows me to get a little bit more health off for certain Pokemon, so I can continuously switch into that Celesteela as much as I want. And that is it for the team, guys. Hopefully we can do pretty well versus aDrive. I'm a little bit solid about this team. Basically, if he brings just a really fat team, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to break it, because I am just switching around a lot. But if he brings more of an offensive team, which I'm kind of predicting to capitalize on Toxapex, because he has used Toxapex, he enjoys the bulk, but he doesn't enjoy how it can be like free substitute and stuff like that. So I am expecting like some sort of more offensive team. So I'm trying to capitalize on that with a more momentum-based team. But if he brings more of a defensive bulk, that will be tougher for us to deal with. But at the same time, we're going to try our best, and it's going to be a close battle. And I feel like we have a chance of blowing out the win this week and ending his win streak. So hopefully we can. Make sure to look for that battle tomorrow, as well as the SDL that went up today and my P4G that went up yesterday. But that'll be it from me today. So make sure to sub, like, share, deuces.